Welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast, conversations to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. An uplifting and inspiring series of conversations and talks with your host, Jackie Woodside. We are educating minds, empowering lives, and enlightening souls to create a world where love prevails. In this engaging podcast, we deliver exciting, positive, transformative talks and teachings designed to elevate your life. Now, let's join our host, Jackie Woodside, for this week's session.
Hi, everybody. Jackie Woodside here, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Conscious Living Podcast, where it is our mission to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. Thank you so much for being one of the people that's committed to awakening humanity in this time and in this space. And today, I'm so excited to bring to this platform a dear friend and colleague of mine, someone who I've known for many years, who I admire and want to be like him when I grow up. Kevin Knox is a professional coach. He's an author of 9 different books. Oh my gosh, I don't know how he's had time for all of that. He's a dad. He works with aspiring speakers. He's on the big stages as a keynote speaker himself. He helps to coach people with their signature talk. He writes signature talks for other speakers. And he's also helping authors create and launch their book into the whole ecosystem of their product, their talk, their book, their message, and their courses. So I couldn't be happier to feature my dear, dear friend, Kevin Knox today. Kevin, thank you so much for being with us on the Conscious Living Podcast. Do you mind just saying a couple more things about yourself so people can get to know you a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I got to say thank you. Now, thank you for having me. Anytime I have the opportunity to be on your platform, it's an extreme blessing. And I'm just grateful and humbled that you would even ask me to be a part. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And also that crazy introduction. That was beautiful.
I know, right? You can just put that on play. Like, just put it on loop. You can listen to that when you go to bed.
I ain't the speechwriter you are on that one. I was like, okay.
Yeah, no, you crush it on stage. And, for our listeners, just go to YouTube and look up Kevin Knox. His, your videos that you make, I've admired them for years. They are so, so good. And you are so good on stages. And, I'm just so glad you're being recognized, as one of the premier people out there today on the big stages. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So, my name is Kevin Knox. A lot of people know me as Coach K Knox. And, I'm an entrepreneurship coach and number one in the nation. I'm super excited. I get excited to say this because it just happened, but I'm now the nation's top book writing coach. And so I'm really excited.
Wow, Kevin, congratulations.
Thank
the
you.
nation's top book writing coach.
Yeah. And I worked hard to get there too. So that's why it's such an accomplishment, And so I remember when I first wrote my first book. And so to go from that to it just being a dream to actually like getting a title like that means a lot. So
oh my gosh, congratulations. And I love what you just said, Kevin. You said I worked hard to get there.
Yeah.
Because one of my pet peeves, Kevin, is that I think that some people think that conscious living or awakening and hard work don't go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I, as entrepreneurs, know that, you can be conscious and awakened. And I honestly feel like the more that you're conscious and awakened, the harder that you work. There's actually a quote by George Bernard Shaw that says, "The harder I work, the more I live." And I know I feel that way because it's not work, really.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Freud said that work is the adult's expression of child's play. And I know that I feel that way, but you have worked hard. You have an amazing work ethic, and I'm so glad that you're being recognized as the nation's top book author coach. That's extraordinary. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's cool because a lot of times people, you can get a coach to help you with writing your book and things like that. But like I don't like do the courses or anything like that. I like to work with the people one-on-one, hands-on, and help you write the book from A to Z. And so like there's nobody doing it like that. And as far as your comment on work, my grandma turns 97 coming up, and I'd be like, Grandma, why don't you just relax and chill? You're 97, you enjoy your latter days. And she said, well, I still got work to do. And so
Kevin,
she always reminds me, you can have all the faith in the world, but she said, always let your work ethic match the level of your faith. So
wow. And so I'm just curious, what work does your grandma have to do at 97?
You know what's great? I think keeping me in line. That's what I think. So,
Keeping you in line, that's for
yeah,
sure.
so because she always gives me those little nuggets at the right time, and so, like if I get discouraged and, on this entrepreneurial journey,
Sure.
which I do,
Of
sometimes she
course.
say, well, Kevin, your faith must always pass the test of discouragement to graduate to the next level. And I'm like, where do you come up with these like ideas?
Wow.
So, but
Your
she's
faith must pass the test of discouragement to get to the next level. Wow.
in order to graduate to the next level in life or in anything that you do,
Yeah.
faith has to pass that test of discouragement.
Yeah, because you're going to fail, right? You're not going to, I don't know too many people that step up to the plate and hit the home run the first time, or hop on the bike and go crashing down the street first time. We've all got to go through those failures. And especially as entrepreneurs, thought leaders, teachers, authors, most people's first books aren't USA Today or New York Times bestsellers. You gotta,
Yeah. As people hear that I have a total of 9 books, and I tell people, it's not that I'm just nice and I'm sweet. Like I can write my butt off, but a part of those 9 books is because I had to take time to get it right. Like, I have a book on like relationships. I got a book on faith. I got a book on perseverance, but I had to finally get to what is the book that is like me, like from my target audience. I had to find my target audience, and I learned that through trial and error, so.
so great. And you stayed with it.
Yes,
You let that discouragement pass the test. That's your grandmother is amazing. I hope I get to meet her someday.
yeah, man, she's something else, man. So
Really glad that she's still there and taking care of you, keeping you in line, as you say. So Kevin, you're a coach. You're a coach to entrepreneurs and authors. You're on the big stages. You're very well known in your community. And I'm just so curious to pick your brain a little bit, because I also know you're very committed to living an awakened life, that you really think about your values and what kind of a person you're being and how you're showing up in the world. So what does it mean to you to live life consciously? How do you?
I think
It's a great question, isn't it?
to me, it's about awareness. I wasn't aware of a lot of the negative things that took place in my life, or what was preventing me from getting to where I wanted to be, so like negative thoughts or negative things that you entertain. I didn't have the awareness of how much of an effect, like hearing something negative or being told something negative was, or even me speaking and thinking that would have on me. That's, they say that the truth shall set you free. And I do believe that it is true that the truth can set you free the moment you realize the lie that's holding yourself hostage.
Yeah.
And the lie that was holding me hostage is a lot of times the lies of the thoughts of that I can't do it, or that I'm going to fail, and that things like that. But when I started to develop the awareness that, wait a minute, just as much power as this lie has against me, so does this truth. And the truth always is to outweigh the fact. Fact is I'm scared. Fact is I'm nervous. But the truth is I'm capable.
Yes.
And so when
you're willing.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you have to take a chance. Like you cannot be courageous without having fear present. And so anytime I feel present, fear presents an opportunity for you to be courageous, so I just started to feel the fear and do it anyway. And, I became conscious that, wait a minute, what I desire is inside of the cave that I fear to enter. And so I started to develop a consciousness of, well, what am I more afraid of? Am I more afraid of my fear of failure, or more afraid of the fear of being a shoulda, coulda, woulda?
Right.
And so now when I say I developed that awareness, before I allow a negative thought to come to my mind, I question it. And I start talking back to the thought.
Yeah. Yes.
So the thought, Kev, you can't do it. Well, why can't I do it?
Yeah. That's really what it looks like. It's using your thoughts to change your thoughts.
Exactly. And before I doubt, Jack, you know what I found out? Did you know what I found out? I found out that self-doubt is a choice. And so I said, well, if self-doubt is a choice, that means when I doubt, I'm choosing to. So before I doubt, I now doubt my doubts. You
Oh, I love that. Say more. Say more. You doubt your doubts. Say more
know,
about that.
so
That's how, there's a lot of wisdom right there.
before so before I doubt my doubts, because I've learned that it is our faith that has the ability to move mountains, but it's our doubts that have the ability to create them. And so sometimes we can't get to where we want to be because we're creating these mountains of doubt, making it harder for ourselves.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
And we create those mountains of doubt with our thoughts.
exactly. Man, if there was anything that changed the trajectory of my life, I can honestly say it was like the awareness of like my thoughts,
Yeah.
you know, and even just knowing how to take control of, like, you know, I still get thoughts, that negative thoughts, but it's learning how to no longer entertain them and check them at the door quickly, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. So, I think a lot of people misunderstand this, Kevin. So it's so great to hear someone as successful as you, doing so great, crushing it with your business and in your life, every area of your life. Here, I still have negative thoughts because I think a lot of people think, maybe they look at us, we're on podcasts or we're on stages and like, oh, well, they've got it. They don't have to struggle with that. But no, negative thoughts are part of the human condition. It's hardwired into our DNA because it's from kind of the ancient, kind of caveman brain, where fear and negativity were part of survival. If you weren't walking around being careful and looking what's behind that next bush and what's that guy doing with his spear, and I'm not too sure. If you didn't have a lot of those thoughts, and in our earlier development, then you'd end up dead.
Yeah.
So
Like
fear and negative
fear is a
thinking,
good thing.
it's fear and negative thinking is part of the human condition. And I think when people don't understand that, they walk around thinking, what's the matter with me? Why am I so negative? What's wrong with me? Look at them. They don't have negative thoughts. No, everyone has negative thoughts.
Yeah. And I think that sometimes, like, you know, they say comparison is the killer of all joy. You know, joy is nothing more than just strength. You know, joy doesn't mean like happiness, like, or no, joy is like the ability that despite how I feel, I'm still going to persevere, and you get joy. This is where joy comes from. Strength does not come from the things that you can overcome. Joy comes from, and strength comes from the things that you thought you couldn't. So you could look back over your life, you say, yo, I didn't think I was going to get through that, but I did. And when in the reality of the awareness or the consciousness of like, oh, I got through that, comes joy, right? But what happens is when you compare yourself to other people, like, oh, well, but they're still so further than me, and they're this and they're that, you're not counting your blessings. You're not counting how far you've come. And now comparison is now the killer of your joy, the killer of your strength. And so, and so I think that's what keeps people stuck.
Kevin, what you just said is really profound. I don't want to just step over that because I've actually never heard that before, that joy is strength.
Oh, yeah.
And when you experience joy, it's not that, it's not happiness on steroids. Joy is not happiness on steroids. Joy is strength when you've overcome something difficult. And I don't know why, but when you were talking about that, what leapt into my mind was I had an experience once of doing a fire walk. And one of the activities before doing the fire walk was, different, warm-up activities where we broke a board with our hand and we did these different activities. And one of them was to break an arrow that was pressed against my throat and another person holding it taut with a board, and to rush to that person and break the arrow in two.
Yeah.
And I was scared to death. But when you were talking about joy is the feeling when you come through something you don't think you can. I mean, I was so scared doing that exercise, like tears in my eyes, thought I was going to die, thought I was going to be impaled. My knees were literally quivering. And then I, got the coaching, set my mindset, all the things that you have to do to be safe and careful doing this. Please don't try this at home. But as I took the coaching and did what they told me to do and rushed to this guy who was holding the board, and the arrow broke right in two. And I hugged this guy, who helped me break it. And I was elated. I was filled with joy because I overcame something I was afraid of.
Yeah, that's what it is. Like when you picture in the Olympics when they're running a race, you ever know that they're tired, they're exhausted. It's just that it's the joy that takes over them. It's not like, oh, hey, I'm happy, let's go get some wings. No, it's like, nah, it's an overwhelming of joy because you work so hard for something. You know what I'm saying? There's still the curiosity of like, all right, I got the competition. Okay, I got fear in lane 1. I got self-doubt in lane 2. You know what I'm saying? I got my haters in lane 3. And all of these things are on a mission to outrun you, but you have to outrun that competition of discouragement. You have to outrun the competition of doubt and fear. And so when you get to that race, you're nervous, you're believing in your capability, but you're thinking like, oh, will I be able to overcome this? And guess what? When you beat the time, like, wait, oh my gosh, I have the best time that I've ever had. You cross that finish line. It's not that you just happy. It's a joy. It's a strength. And with it comes like, oh, wait, I'm stronger than that fear. I'm stronger than that self-doubt. I'm stronger than those haters. Like you realize your strength. And that's where you get that joy. It's like, wow. Because I bet you when you broke that arrow, it's like, I realized I just achieved something that I once didn't think I could, which came about joy. You know,
so conscious living to you then is about your ability to not only just be aware. Oh, this is so good. I really want to dive down into this a little bit more. Not just be aware of your thinking, because you can be aware of those negative thoughts, but if you believe them, if you empower them, if you ruminate on them, you know, and kind of go with those negative thoughts, you're going to end up in a place you don't want to be. Your life is going to be in shambles. And you know, I would guess there was a time in your life that maybe that was your story at an earlier time. You believed those negative thoughts and how that held you back. Yeah. So what you're saying then is it's not just awareness of those thoughts, but it's the ability to observe them and then really use your mind to turn it around.
Yeah, like, you know, analyze it. Like, you know, I think that a lot of times we just receive the thought and we accept it. And we don't never take the time to like, wait, let me analyze this thought. Like, you know, and because like, you know, you're not a product of what people think. You're not a product of what people say. However, you are a product of whatever it is that you choose to believe. And it will always come down to this question. What is it that you believe?
Yes.
Absolutely. And if you don't know what to believe, those negative thoughts and other people would define it for you.
Yeah.
You know,
and you have to cultivate beliefs, you know, because we do inherit a lot of kind of limiting beliefs in the culture that we live in and just the human condition. You know, we have a lot of negative beliefs just because our brains are designed for our survival, not for us to thrive. I like to say you have to use your mind to train your brain.
Yeah.
Use your higher order thinking.
I totally, ain't it funny how you can get photographs and you can see the brain, but you can't with the mind?
Right, you can't see the mind, yeah.
And it's like, how that's the mind is so powerful, you can't even see it. So like, you know what I'm saying? And it's with that mind that you can change and adjust anything in your life. So when I realized like, okay, I wanted to change my finances. I wanted to change my health. I wanted to change just my relationships. You know, what's so crazy? Everything that I needed to change on the outer side of myself, my life is all started on the inside of my mind.
Exactly.
I went to my mind first. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, I had to learn about the mind. I had to study the minds, the different parts of the mind. How do I train the mind? Not just, I couldn't just take be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Or, hey, if you want to change your life, change your mind. That's cool. No, how do I change the mind? And I started to learn how to do that. I tapped in learning about the conscious mind. I tapped in and learning about the subconscious mind. And I learned how to use my conscious mind to slowly but surely change my subconscious mind.
Exactly.
It makes sense. You know?
So great. And you know, what are a couple of the ways you did that, Kevin? I think that would be really valuable for our listeners. And also, if you can just walk us through an example. You said you wanted to change your finances, you wanted to change your health. Walk us through an example, because you're absolutely right. That's why all my books, you know, Calming the Chaos is about time, Money Vibe is about money. It's all about the inner game of time, the inner game of money. Because if you change your skills, but you don't change your beliefs, the best skills in the world won't carry you, because you'll produce what you believe.
Yep. There's this quote I love that I say, and I say, it's not who you are that holds you back. It's who you think you're not. And what it was that I had to reprogram my self-image of how I see myself. And I learned that my self-image is not how I physically see myself in a mirror. My self-image is how do I see and view myself in my mind? And so I realized that, oh, wait, I have to adjust and change how I see myself. I wanted to go from six figures to 500,000, then from 500,000 to 1 million. But there was a point in time where I was only at like 60,000 a year.
Yeah.
And that 100,000 felt far-fetched, right?
Yeah.
But I was never going to get there if I didn't first begin to see myself as being worthy to accept and be that person that can be at 100,000 a year. What's crazy is when I was able to make 100,000 a year, I said I had to do it all over again, because I could see myself as, oh yeah, I'm good with six figures. That's who I am, six-figure Kev out here. But what crazy is, no, now I have to do it again. Reprogram your self-image to see yourself at 500,000. And so now I'm at the level where I'm at currently. I'm at the point where, no, now see yourself as that millionaire, you know? And so again, it goes back to what we were saying earlier, that strength does not come from what you know you can overcome. It comes from what you thought you couldn't. And every time you achieve something that you thought you couldn't, comes that joy. And so now, but with joy is your strength. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I had the strength to go from 60 to 100. I got the strength to go from 100 to 500,000. So that then gives me the confidence and the faith and the consciousness, the awareness, like, oh, just maybe I can now go from 500,000 to 1 million. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. And so the things of how I was able to do that, I started with one, writing everything down in present tense. I wrote everything down in present tense, starting with I am. I learned that my subconscious mind it controls 95% of my life, and that it didn't comprehend or understand the future or the past. It only understands the now. And my example would be is that if me and you was watching a scary movie right now, we are consciously aware that it's fake, it's not real. But when they say, and they scare you, we still jump because our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real or imaginary. Right. It can only accept whatever is given to it. So then I thought, wait a minute, if I plant seeds of positivity, if I plant seeds of health, if I plant seeds of prosperity, if I plant seeds of wealth into my, like using my conscious mind is choosing to plant the seed of a prosperity thought, a healthy thought, a positive thought into the garden of my subconscious mind. My subconscious mind has to, by law, manifest whatever seed is planted inside of it. And then I started to grow a harvest of blessings out of my life. My health, I started getting healthy. I started even looking a little better too. You know, my money started to change. My relationship started to change because I was planting so many seeds of positivity. And I started to starve my fears, starve my doubts, and feed my faith. You know what I'm saying? And I watered it and I nurtured it. Like I have like my Rocky Balboa posters. I have all these different quotes. As you can see, I got all these books behind me because I'm conscious now. Wait, let me set up I'm protecting my mindset so I can continue to nurture the seeds that I planted in my subconscious mind. So I can continually grow that harvest, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. And so Kevin, I just want to go another step further. So what you mean by that is you had some kind of a daily practice where you were actually sitting down and writing these things. So do you mind just saying a little bit about that? How, it wasn't when you were driving your car down the road, what does your practice look like of training your subconscious?
It was funny. I actually was watching an interview where Jim Carrey had talked about how he wanted to make like a certain $1 million or something like that. And he had a blank check and he wrote how many millions he wanted to make, and he kept it in his back pocket. Nice. And then he ended up manifesting it because he did the movie Dumb and Dumber, and the exact amount of money of millions that he wanted to make, he made from that movie. Wow. And so I took that same concept and I have even got a notebook now. I stay with notebooks, right? Yeah. And I always write, I am wherever it is that I want to be, or, but I write it in present tense and I attach an emotion to it. So I'll be like, I'm so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. Something I got from Bob Proctor. But
Bob Proctor, yeah.
I say that. And what happens is, you see how I got to even memorize that?
Yeah, of course.
It's because guess what? It became a habit.
Yeah.
But where are habits stored at? In our subconscious mind.
Mm.
So I kept writing out, oh, I am handsome. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, you are.
500 million. Thank you. I earn 500 million a year. Or I'm so happy and grateful that I'm on my, so I would put those things on paper, but I wrote it so much because see, I learned something. When I used to get in trouble a lot in school. And
I can't imagine that. I can't imagine that.
And I was the detention king. I spent so much time in detention, man. It was crazy. So, but in detention, they made us do something, Jackie. They used to make us like, right, I will not stand on the desk ever again. I will not shoot trash, like paper balls into the trash can. Like you have to repeat it.
Yeah, like 25 times, 200 times. Yeah, yeah.
You know why they would make you do that? So that way you would get into your subconscious that you would never do it again. So I said, wait, if I had to do that it was a form of discipline. And I realized I wasn't disciplined in my life. So I had to discipline myself to get to where it is that I wanted to be. And so what I did was everything I wrote, I would actually rip it out and then I would start to use it as a meditation. And then I would close my eyes and I would see myself living the life. Like I would use the power of my imagination and see myself living what I wrote. Then I would fold it and I do like Jim Carrey did. And I put that thing in my pocket and I carried it wherever I went. And anytime I got discouraged, anytime like when I did have a job and I'm on my way to work, before I got in the car, you know what I did? I would pull it out and I would read it out loud to myself because your subconscious mind is always listening.
Nice. So powerful. Kevin, I love that I love the degree to which you walk your talk. You're not just teaching this stuff. And what you also that story you just told about, you're going to work and you pull it out of your pocket before you go in, you read it to yourself out loud. That also says that your practice wasn't just your, 30 minutes in the morning of doing your quiet time.
Every day, all throughout
the day, you're integrating your beliefs, you're integrating your practices, throughout the day, catching your thoughts, changing your thoughts, reading your affirmations to yourself. That's how you're at a 500,000. And I know you're going to be at that million. I look forward to interviewing you again when you'll be like telling that story, of how that got manifest.
One of the biggest secrets that I did was I take my AirPods. Well, so what I do is I got an iPhone. I open up my voice recording app and I repeat the affirmations over and over and over and over again into the recording. And then I loop it so that it goes on for about a few hours. And then I put my AirPods in. So when I go to sleep, I'm knocked out, but the affirmation is still playing in my ears because even though consciously I go to sleep, subconsciously I'm still awake.
You're hearing that message.
And so I become, you are what you think, right? Yeah. But you manifest what you speak. And so I allowed it to kind of do a spiritual surgical work within my subconscious mind while I would go to sleep. You know what I'm saying? And so they say that as a man or a woman thinks within his or her heart, so is he or she. Yeah. Your heart is nothing more than a subconscious mind, your way of thinking. And so I realized I needed a heart transplant. I needed to change a heart. And so when I go to sleep, consider it as me going under the knife. And I allow the words of my affirmation to be that surgical procedure to reprogram my subconscious.
I love the way you talk in metaphors. You're such a good writer, and this is why you're so good on stage, because you don't just talk, you paint pictures, and it's just delightful to listen to. I feel like I don't know if I just heard a motivational speech or a church service or a lecture. I don't know what I just heard, but I'm vibrating at a much higher level now than when I sat down with you, Kevin. Yeah. So I want lots of my listeners to get in touch with you, to follow you. How can people find you, Kevin? This has been an extraordinarily powerful interview, and I want my people to be your people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So on all social media outlets, Instagram, Facebook is Coach K Knox, CoachKKnox, or catch me online at coachknox.com.
CoachKnox.com. And you've got to watch his videos, watch him on stage. He is just top shelf, really unbelievable talent, inspiration, wisdom, and a heart full of love. So thank you so much, Kevin, for being with us on the Conscious Living Podcast. This is absolutely a blast. I could talk to you all day, and I look forward to our next go round.
Absolutely. Let's do it.